Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where things are starting to heat up a lot. People are starting to take sides at this point. If we look at the factions here, yep, that's all going to be a thing. Now, we are not at war currently, and when we sever ties with the UK, we will exit the Allies faction. So that's interesting, for sure. Things have gotten weird. Things have gotten very weird, but we're going to proceed here for just a little bit. Things are definitely running slower now that there's all of this conflict going on, and that's fine. Cool. So we're going to proceed here. For the time being, we are still very interested in not being at war. We must decide whether to remain loyal now that our ideological views are so different. We are going to get that from sever ties with the UK. This gives us Arthur Caldwell, who we already have. We should bypass this focus and just save time. Okay, so we can declare independence. Done. That will save us a decent amount of time on our national focus, and that will bypass that national focus. The Australian government today announced that they will unilaterally be breaking ties with the British government. They cite their inability to reconcile their political views with the present political developments occurring in British Empire as the primary reason for this. The Empire is in crisis. So that national focus was cancelled, and we should, in theory, have that bypassed, and that requires sever ties with the UK. Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. I assumed that this would be bypassed. The following will bypass the focus, is at war with the British Empire. Huh. Well, that may end up happening eventually, but that means that we can't go down this tree for the time being. That's not hugely shocking. Well, actually, it's a little shocking. I didn't read this, I guess, for what would bypass the focus. But that's strange to me. I definitely expected, if we're just independent, that that would bypass it. We have to be at war with them to bypass. That's really weird. I'm tempted to reload this, actually, because I definitely expected that that would just bypass it and we'd move on. Now, to be clear, I was not planning on protecting the Dutch colonies or wooing the USA at this point. I was not planning to continue down this tree just now. I was planning to come over here and go towards research collaboration next. So we need Australian arms production, and we would also need fight work or perish. And honestly, I think that we'd go invest in victory first. Yes. So invest in victory, squash the squander bugs. Rationing and recycling would be pretty handy too. And then we can go down into fight work or perish, Australian arms production, research collaboration, like that. But I think I am actually going to reload this. I don't do that very often, but I was absolutely expecting that to bypass that focus. So if that's the case, I think I'm willing to wait the 60-some days. Okay. So this is all going to go exactly the same, but I definitely didn't expect that focus to not get bypassed, but only canceled. I should have expected that, to be clear, but I think I'm okay with this. So we see nothing wrong with this state of affairs, and we're going to sever ties with the UK via the focus tree rather than via that event. In my opinion, this is objectively the better way to go. New Zealand has declared its independence right after joining the Allies, which is interesting. Oh, that's another reason to not go via the event and go via the focus tree. This, declaring independence, does not have New Zealand leaving the Allies, whereas sever ties with the UK does have us leave the Allies. So that's a good reason. India has declared independence, and they're in the Allies. Interesting. So yeah, going via the focus tree is definitely the better way to go. South Africa is declaring independence as well. Basically everyone is. Except us. We completed our concentrated industry, and next, I would love to go for concentrated industry 4. That's simply not going to happen. Instead, I would like to start working on some of the stuff out over here. Now, we did finish basic engines. Let's get basic armor protection next. I'd like to get some decent armor anyway. We have doctrines available, our land doctrine. We can go down to delay. There's no choice here, so we're going to take that. Some organization for our leg infantry sounds good. Cool. Boy, I can't remember the last time I actually reloaded a save in a Paradox game for a purpose like that. But yeah, that was just me misunderstanding how that was working right there. Also, I'm endlessly fascinated by what they're doing with the sun's reflection in the Pacific Ocean here. I'm assuming this is happening because you see the international dateline is right here, which is where it actually tiles. But then it jumps over here, and then it comes down to the international dateline as we center on that, and then it jumps up over here. That may not be too interesting to too many people, but I find that very interesting, the way that that works. And then all over this way, it all remains about the same, and then it resets. Boom. Right around the international dateline. Very, very interesting. At least to me. So we're going to proceed here for a little bit, and we're going to sever ties with the UK via the focus. Now that I know that that's the way that that works. To be clear, it says in here where it will bypass, but it doesn't say that in the tooltip here. It does say that it will cancel if the requirements are not met, but I just assumed that it would bypass. But we wouldn't have left the Allies, to be clear, if we had stuck with that original decision. So there's that. Britain wants to call us in. We decline. We don't want into this war. Actually, Yugoslavia is doing pretty well here. Pretty well indeed. That said, it looks like it's going to take Britain a little while to get there. So we'll see how that ends up going. That's going to be very interesting. Assailing Britain is going to be interesting for them for sure. I don't know how they're going to manage that one. Let's take a look at our construction here. We now have 14 factories constructing. That is such a huge improvement. So huge. And we're going to get more. We're going to be able to exploit the bauxite in Tasmania soon. We're researching Excavation 3 right now, 65 days on that. But time has definitely slowed down. It's going a lot slower when there's all this war going on. Italy is really not doing well over here. And I think that's because they made the Pact of Rome really weird. That and the US is involved in this. This is all the North American operation here. Vladivostok fell. Japan managed to storm that. Okay. Japan is making some gains over here. We like this. For now. We don't necessarily want them to get too many gains, but for the time being, this is fine. So we're going to have our ties severed with the UK in about 27 days here, 26 days. Cool. And now this is going at 15 factories. Or no, it's going at 14. Now it's 15. I wonder if this is some sort of a rounding thing here. Where it says we need 15 factories here, or rather, leaving us with 15 factories because we need 30%. And so I wonder if it runs one factory part-time as a consumer goods factory, because it's definitely fluctuating between those. No doubt about that one. Interesting. Okay, we don't really care too much about our diplomacy for the moment. Guatemala has joined the Allies. Good job, Mexican Socialist Republic. And actually, it looks like Britain is primarily attacking the US. And that's why Italy is falling. Because Britain isn't really focusing on Italy right now. Britain is focusing on attacking the US. If they can take out the US, that's going to be a pretty big deal. But I'm not sure that they can. El Salvador and Portugal have joined the Allies. Portugal declared war on Spain. Interesting. Well, the lines are being drawn, and we are remaining neutral. We're out in the middle of nowhere. I don't think anybody really cares too much about us. So that's fine for now. Well, except Britain. But they're not going to care about us for another, 9 days. I do want to get a... Let's see, those are doctrine costs. Yeah. We could get ourselves a theorist here. Air warfare, perhaps? Let's go ahead and do that for now. Cool. So Italy is going to fall. I think that's pretty clear. I don't see a scenario where Italy survives this. Yugoslavia is just wrecking them right now, with the help of France and other nations. Portugal joining the Allies is going to make things interesting, for sure. We just bypassed Woo USA. Bypassed because one of the following must exist. US, okay. So we can't woo the USA because they made their own faction. Gotcha. That's fine. That's not anything that we're going to be upset about. So we bypass that. And we could grab the Southwest Pacific Initiative. And I feel like that's maybe not a bad idea right now. The lines are being drawn. We severed ties with Britain. And we need to get non-aligned nations into our faction as soon as possible if they're going to join our faction, as opposed to other factions. The fall of Manila. Okay. The capital of the Philippines fell to the Japanese. So the Japanese are definitely at war with the US now, too. This has gone really weird. Okay, it's 1939, remember? I have no idea how this is going to play out. But that's a world war, all right. No doubt about that one. We're going to make our faction. And then we're going to head over this direction into invest in victory, squash the squander bugs. Rationing and recycling will be pretty important eventually as well, but I think we'll go fight, work, or perish first, and then research collaboration for that sweet, sweet research slot. We do need to be at war to grab that, I think, if I'm reading that tooltip correctly. So that's something to consider. But for now, I think that's okay. We are still working on Excavation 3. Let's hop over into Armor and work on Improved Engine for the moment. We want to have better tanks. So we're going to work on that. Portugal is making gains against Spain. Good for them. This is going very poorly for Italy. We can grab an air doctrine. There's no choice here, just fighter baiting. Sounds good. We'll go ahead and unlock that. Cool. And we're just trying to make as much experience as we can for the moment. Guatemala has capitulated to Mexico. That's unsurprising. Deeply, deeply unsurprising. So we're going to grab the SWPI, which is exactly what we want to make. We want to have that Australia as a global leader thing. And we're going to be centered on defending the Southwest Pacific area from hostile powers. And we hope that we don't get in a war with everyone. That's the hope here. If we do, awkwardness may ensue, and, I mean, that's just generally the geopolitical situation here, is awkwardness. Excavation 3 finished up, so let's grab... I would love to take Construction 4. We're ahead of time on that. I think for the moment we're going to hop over, and we could start working our way through planes. Or we could start working our way through Navy. And honestly, Navy might be the way to go. We could grab deck conversions here. And just start working on that. Cool. I also want to exploit our bauxite deposits in Tasmania. That will use a few civilian factories for 3 months. That's fine. Fantastic. Our intelligence agency I'm not too concerned about making right now. So yeah, you can see we've dropped down there. Ireland was attacked by the British Empire. Okay. We'll see how that goes. British Empire making inroads into France as well. And making some serious gains on the US. Interesting. We don't know what the US is focusing on right now. But it usually takes the US a little longer than this. Austria has capitulated to Czechoslovakia. Sure. It usually takes a little bit longer for the US's economy to really come online. But that's definitely going interestingly. So we're gonna form the SWPI ASAP here. All of the acronyms. And we're going to exploit our bauxite in Tasmania very soon as well. Cool. Honduras has capitulated. They're attacking over here. And the US is still democratic. So the US's faction is going to be like natural allies for us. But their faction isn't that huge. None of the factions are actually that big. I like how Japan is the Pact of Rome. They're the only ones remaining in the Pact of Rome. That's hilarious. Italy joined the Allies. And this is all part of the Fourth International, the Soviet Union's faction. And the North American Association is fighting the Allies, but the Bolivarian Alliance down here, that's not at war with the US. But I definitely think that the US wasn't planning on fighting Unitary Canada. I think that's pretty clear. So we're going to finish up another factory here quite soon. That's great. We are going to be able to queue up a few more as well, and we will definitely do so. I'm going to queue these up at the top of the list, and I'm going to have the game paused for the moment, because we're going to want to move these back up to the top. There we go. So we'll get all those factories queued up. They are all civilian factories, and eventually we're going to want to convert those over. Portugal has capitulated. I mean, I'm not shocked about that. I don't know why they declared, if I'm honest. I never really expected Portugal to beat Spain. Ooh, this is potentially dire for Britain. Yeah, this is not looking good for Britain's invasion here. Britain's invasion of France appears to have failed. They're still gaining territory on the US, though. So we'll see how that goes. Following our recent policy of distancing ourselves from the Empire, it only makes sense for a country as dominant as we are in our own sphere to assume the position of a leader, rather than a follower. We will gather other regional powers to our cause, and ensure that our mutual interests are defended on the global stage. No longer in servitude to the colonial powers of Europe, we will ensure a new, more just balance of power. Australia leads the way to the future. Puppet Dutch East Indies became independent from the Netherlands and joined our initiative. Cool, I didn't realize that was going to happen. That's neat. Yeah. Fantastic. So we'll see what ends up going on over there. What is this over here? That's owned by Portugal. Got it. Okay, so next up for our focus, if we can't go to research collaboration at this point, we need more factories than 50, or any other country in our faction to have more factories than 50 to grab the research collaboration. So for right now, getting Australian arms production is useless, because we need to be at war and have 50 factories. We have 34 right now. So that means if we want to continue focusing on our military, we want to go into Volunteer Defense Corps, down to Citizen Military Force. And classify aliens would only be useful for getting this research slot. But if we wanted to work on getting our economy developed and fully online faster, then we take Invest in Victory, Squash the Squander Bugs, Fight Work or Perish into Rationing and Recycling. And then go down here and grab Fund Australian Defense Research. And then by then, maybe we'll be able to grab research collaboration. So we're going to take Invest in Victory right now to give us more output and reduce our consumer goods factories. Oh, we have to be at war? We have to be at war for Invest in Victory. I didn't even notice that. Okay. Well, we can't go that route. So if we can't go that route, then where do we go? Protecting the Dutch colonies is kind of useless at this point. We could grab research cooperation, entering a tech-sharing agreement with the US or with other members of our faction. Which, it'll probably be other members of our faction, is my guess. That's an option. Or we could go down to citizen military forces so that we can start dealing with our manpower issue. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to get Volunteer Defense Corps. And that on its own isn't very useful for us. But that allows us to go down to citizen military forces. And yeah, this requires strengthened ties with the UK. So we're not going to go over this way for sure. Cool. So that national focus has been bypassed. In a move that surprised few observers, Australia has announced its own independent treaty organization. John Curtin has announced that Australia will seek allies in an attempt to maintain stability in the Southeast Asia-Pacific region and beyond, and if necessary, to counter aggression against the Australian state and others. With recent moves away from its Commonwealth ties, this seems like the natural next step as Australia seeks to become the sole master of its fate. Our own backyard will not be ruled by Europeans. Cool. So we'll proceed here. The Japanese are going to be a problem for us, that's for sure. And we can't go off of volunteer only for this moment. The Netherlands joined the Allies because the Mexicans declared war on the Netherlands. What? Okay. I'm not sure what they've got going on there, but that one's wild. The Philippines capitulated. That is unsurprising. That is pretty close to our backyard here, so we're a little bit concerned about that one. They're puppeted here, but they took a bunch of territory there. Catholic Mexico. The Mexican junta declared war on the Mexican Socialist Republic. So Mexico was going a little too hard there, and now they're in civil war. Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting. The forces of church and revolution have once again come into conflict in Mexico. With the government renewing its attacks on the church, the embattled Catholic parties and social movements are launching an armed rebellion to seize control of Mexico. Cristero militias are reforming after a decade of inactivity, supplemented by defectors from the federal military. They've taken over several rural states and are using these as a base from which to operate. The first Cristiada ended with a settlement negotiated between senior revolutionary and church officials, thanks to intermediation by the American government. But it looks likely that this violence will end only with the complete destruction of one of the belligerents. The Mexican situation seems too complex for an outsider to understand. Well, especially not one that's currently losing an invasion. So there's that. Okay, well that's some pretty wild stuff that's happening right now. I'm not gonna lie. Things are going real off the rails at this point. Let's see. We could definitely go for somebody here, but I think we may hold off on that. Well, actually, I'm just checking what our options are here. Yeah, we don't care about any of that. Okay. Not a lot of great options for the moment. But that's fine. Our tech is coming along. We're working on it. We have a ways to go yet. That's for sure. But it is about time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we'll see what other awkwardness ensues in this world. This is going real weird. Rear wheeled, apparently. This is going real weird. That's the correct words that I'm looking for. Fantastic. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, Sigma162, JJ Gamer, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Kadra, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.